All right, congratulations, you've made it. You're here and you're ready to make something Unreal. So if you haven't already, go to the unrealengine.com website and click the Get Started Now button, which will take you to the license option page here. So you can choose a publishing license if you're already in industry, or if you're in education, you can probably use the creator's license. Or if you're interested in something else, there's even more options. I'm going to select the creator's license. So I've downloaded and installed the installer already. You'll need to click the file to install the launcher. Once you've done that, you'll now have the launcher on your system. You can get the launcher in a bunch of different ways. There's one on your desktop, on your taskbar, I've got it. I also often hit my Windows key and just type Unreal and hit enter, and that pulls up the launcher. Now the launcher, I'm going to quickly go over some of the things that are in this launcher. Here's this first tab, the Unreal Engine. There's news, YouTube, Answer Hub, forums, roadmap. There's different screenshots of different works in progress. There's different news items. So this field guide for creators is great. It came out in March. Then there's this Learn tab. There's a bunch of different possible Unreal projects that you can download and reverse engineer. This content examples, we'll be going over some of the ones that are in there. There's also other links to the documentation website. There's the Unreal Online Learning. It's got a bunch of different classes you can take, and there's a whole community wiki. This marketplace, Unreal on a monthly basis, gives away free assets. There's a really great community building amazing assets. And then there's the library tab. And in the library tab, you're going to want to install an Unreal version. So depending on when you're watching this video, you might want to grab the newest version. So you can do this by clicking this plus button, and then you can go and choose the newest version and hit install. And that'll take a while, but once you've got that installed, then you can launch. And this will take a little while. I'll pause the video. Once that's launched, depending on the speed of your system, you will see possibly previous projects, or in this case, project categories. And so in this case, we're just going to stick with the basic games tab, but I'll go over the different categories really quickly. So games has a lot of different options. I mean, Unreal Engine started as a game engine, and now there's a huge amount of different possibilities that are starting to converge and being used by the Unreal Game Engine. There's first-person shooter, there's flying games. All of these are templates that have additional pieces of code that will allow you to more rapidly start prototyping in one of these directions. So there's vehicle, virtual reality, augmented reality. Let's go back, take a look. There's a whole field of virtual production that's a growing area the Unreal Engine is being used in. There's this NDisplay for connecting multiple outputs for displaying the Unreal Engine projects. Architectural visualization has been being used a lot with the Unreal Engine. And finally, really quickly, there's a lot of automotive and product visualization. In this case, we're just going to start with a basic template, first person. And in the project settings, I'm going to choose how I'm going to, what interactive options. In this case, I'm going to choose blueprinting, which is a node-based coding system that's built into Unreal. I'm going to leave ray tracing disabled. We'll go over turning on ray tracing for an additional project. And also, I'm going to leave the starter content turned on. That installs a chunk of content that comes with the engine. We'll use some of that. So we'll call this my first Unreal 4 project and hit create. And here we are. Depending on the speed of your system and if you've launched the Unreal Engine before, your interface may or may not look exactly like this. The great thing is that the interface is extremely customizable. So you can grab any of these tabs and move it around to make the interface however you'd like. In this case, I'm going to keep that docked right in there. And I'm going to go over the common default user interface areas. I'll just go over 5 of them really quickly. So we'll talk about the modes panel, the world outliner, content browser, the details palette, and world settings. So let's just quickly look at modes. The modes palette has a bunch of different things that you can add to the scene. There's geometry, there's also lights, there's cameras, visual effects, there's different painting options and the ability to create landscapes, and also geometry editing. We'll talk about a thing called a BSP in a little bit. There's also the world outliner. Now the world outliner has got everything that you've got in the scene will show up in the world outliner. And the world outliner has the ability to, you can temporarily hide objects, you see their name, and you see what type of object it is. And you can also organize things using the world outliner. So this is, you can see there's already some folders built in. We could create a new folder if we wanted. You could select some of the objects and put those in a folder. And that puts it right into the folder. And then we've got the details palette and the world settings palette. For the details palette, if you select any object, you'll see, like I still had this selected, you can see the location of the object. Is it scaled up or scaled down? How is it rotated? What is the material that it's applied to it? Other information, like does it have physics on it? We'll go over all of these as we go through this course. All right, what else? We've got the world settings. Now, in this case, we're going to keep this pretty light, but there's different game modes that will tell us about what are some of the rules for the world. What are, like, for example, how is gravity handled? And as well as, like, are there VR options? But in this case, we're just going to leave everything in the default. Just know that that exists. And finally, we're going to talk about the content browser. So the content browser, you can change the view. The content browser, we installed the starter content. You can see we've got props that are already in the engine that are installed with it. There's different architectural visualizations. There's audio, and it gives us a sense of how we might want to name subfolders for the project that we're going to use. So this is a great place to start. You've got a little bit of a sense of the interface. We'll talk about navigation and also how to add objects into the world, put textures on them, and some of that in the next video.